Hi, my name is Nick Hadjinicolaou. I'm the IASP Australian President. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person today, and I'm just going to provide an overview of our research data collection, and then we'll lead on to a panel discussion. So I'm going to provide a bit of background into the survey and then talk about some of our findings very briefly. So these slides will be available to you after the presentation. And we're going to talk about the current and future uses of generative AI in the practice of strategic management. A little bit of background about the survey. We started talking about over a year ago, in fact, in terms of this generative AI thing that was coming, and it was all over the media, it was all over channels, and we started some discussions. Robin and Randy and Doug and myself we're talking about, well, is it something that's going to go away, and is it worth investing some time to actually do some research and really find out, well, what is being used and in the areas of generative AI, in the areas of practice management. So we set up a research team of myself, Stephanie, a number of people from LBL Strategies, Randy, Robin, Richard, Doug, and Annika, and Mark Bills and Joel Garrison. And we had a number of volunteers that were also involved in terms of providing feedback to the initial pilot survey before the survey was released. So our key three objectives was about the discovery of how generative AI is being currently used in the strategy profession, discover how generative AI could be used in the future, and identify some core benefits, barriers, and impacts for using generative AI for strategic management. And I'm going to talk about that today. The picture there is courtesy of Google Gemini. I thought I'd ask Google Gemini for an image on research, and this is what it came back with. We had over 100 responses, and thank you, everyone. There'll be a number of people in the audience today that responded to the survey. So thank you for your support. The responses came back from over 28 countries and 17 industry sectors, predominantly from consulting and government. And I've listed the roles there, the primary roles of the respondents. I did ask Gemini for an image of a strategy consultant, and it was interesting to see what the response was there. I've just put that up on the screen, that they're still working on how to better generate images. Okay, so in terms of the areas, we followed the IASP BOK in terms of drilling down into the strategy formation, transformation, execution, which you would all be familiar with, and certainly it was interesting to find that there were a lot of people just still not using it. So certainly we've had discussions about that, and some of effectively then it's meant that some of the responses are probably not at the quality, and whether we would be running the survey again. It's something that we've been talking about and exploring. But certainly in the strategy formation is where it featured highly. In the area of tools and frameworks that we see utilising generative AI over the next 2 years, the respondents very much come back with the areas of scenario planning, futures research, in signal and trend analysis, and SWOT analysis. And certainly, it's particularly powerful and can save a lot of time when we use it for preparation activities around strategy. Moving right along, and I am going to go through these slides fairly quickly because I don't want to cut into the time the panel will be having for Q&A. Some of the greatest concerns very much around misinformation, the lack of context, the misuse of data, and ethical implications were really the four there that stood out. And certainly we're seeing a lot more of that kind of in the media around concerns about the ethical side of generative AI and the concerns around the governance. Some of the As far as the 5 greatest benefits of using generative AI for strategy, they sort of came back with organisational learning at number 1, organising the planning effort, stakeholder engagement, and support for education and training also featured quite highly. And we are seeing a very large impact in the education sector as a result of AI and generative AI. And certainly, this area of reducing risks was something that also came up on this question. With the open responses, and normally with research like this, providing an opportunity for open responses is very powerful, to let people provide open text. And we took all of the open text responses. There were around 25 open text responses, and we fed those into ChatGPT, and we asked for some themes of these open text responses. And these were the themes that had come back: really concerns about the impact on business and businesses and workers. And certainly there's been a lot of talk about that in the media around the job roles and augmentation of job roles, the misuse of AI. So we're seeing a lot of good things that are coming out of it, but also we're seeing some of the cybercrime and crime increasing, and using AI, generative AI, which is the other side, the bad side. Around the need for government regulation, and certainly in the last 6 months there's been quite a bit of regulation and government regulation around the world, certainly led by Europe, and the importance of data quality and relevance. So what that one is talking about is really the learning data, from which these models are learning from. If there's not good quality data, it certainly is not as useful. The need for training, concern around technological obsolescence, quite a mouthful, and ethical considerations. So the top 5 challenges, for using generative AI to strategic management, the survey results showed that ethical concerns are sitting number 1, the training that's needed, security, compliance, and sustainability. And certainly the training models are having to utilize enormous amount of resources, whether they be power resources, whether they be water that's needed to keep these computers cool while they train. So they will train in the order of 3 months non-stop, running somewhat 20,000 computers in these huge banks. Okay, so some of the barriers that people thought to anticipate in this strategic planning and management practice, certainly skills, lack of skills is a big one, and featured. The ethical concerns, but also resistance to change is a big one. The team won't support, or there's resistance to change. A number of governments still around the world have banned the use of ChatGPT and generative AI, and that's a problem. And also, in terms of building private models and building chat engines, the cost that's involved in terms of the costs of the tokens and the cost of the operation of these things. Around the training, certainly when we first had the survey come back, we started talking, and the research group, and one thing that was done was to develop an AI community of interest, and these have been going every month for the last 6 months. These were free to attendees, and they're free. They're currently all free and available for people to listen to. So one of those was a presentation I gave, and certainly try to provide a very simple understanding of what generative AI was. So certainly recommend that, and I recommend you actually watch and have a look at all of them. But certainly the Australian chapter and many other chapters around have been providing events. There are a number of free courses, podcast videos, and certainly, there has been in the last 12 months quite a lot of development, a lot of new products, a lot of new tools, and legislation that's been introduced in the US, around Europe, around the world, it's been viewed as a critical thing to get done. So that's all from me. I'm going to be handing over to the Q&A panel, and I thought I would actually apply and use Google Gemini to create me a little image of a Q&A panel, and this is what it came back with. But I wish you all the best, and enjoy the panel discussion, and feel free to reach out and get in touch with me if you would like more information or anything else. Okay, I'll leave it there. Thank you. Bye for now.